Okay, so, I had to check out that CNBC clip you sent about DeepSeek, and wow, this AI model. It's causing quite a stir. It seems like everyone in tech is buzzing about it.
Yeah, it's really caught the spotlight. I mean, we're talking about a Chinese hedge fund manager developing an AI model that's already climbing the App Store charts. It's even surpassing ChatGPT in some areas. Not exactly an everyday occurrence.
I know, and the CNBC anchors, they were really blown away by how fast DeepSeek is and its reasoning abilities. One of them even said it was like a significant leap forward in AI capabilities.
Right, that's what makes this so fascinating. It's not just hype. DeepSeek seems to be reaching a whole new level of performance. And get this, it's running on less powerful hardware than its competitors.
Yeah, that's the part that really got me thinking, do we really need all that computing power? I mean, remember what Mark Andreessen said? He called DeepSeek China's Sputnik moment.
He did, and it's a pretty striking comparison. I mean, think back to 1957, Sputnik, the Soviet Union launching the first satellite. It really shook the U.S. It showed that they were capable of achieving these groundbreaking technological feats. And of course, it kicked off the space race. But the question is DeepSeek really on that same level?
Well, the CNBC anchors seemed to think so. They were definitely talking about a possible power shift in the AI world.
Right, that's the big question looming. Is DeepSeek a sign that China is taking the lead in the AI race? And if that's the case, what does that mean for the U.S.? It's a pretty complicated issue, right? It has these geopolitical implications that stretch far beyond just the tech world.
Absolutely. And there's another layer to this that I find really interesting, DeepSeek being open source.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. It's a whole different ballgame compared to closed models like ChatGPT. With DeepSeek, anyone can access and modify the code. It's a completely different approach to AI development, and it could be seriously disruptive.
So we've got this incredibly powerful AI. It's shaking things up, raising concerns about global competition, and at the same time, it's being developed in a way that's totally open and accessible.
It's a fascinating paradox. I mean, if you look back, open source software has this long history of driving innovation. Think about Linux, right? The operating system that powers a huge chunk of the internet. It's open source, and it's been hugely successful because of that.
So could DeepSeek have a similar impact on the AI world? Could we see this surge in innovation and development with people all over the globe building on top of it?
It's definitely possible. Open source has the potential to democratize these powerful tools, and that could lead to this explosion of creativity and fresh ideas.
But isn't there a risk involved in making such a powerful AI freely available?
There's always some risk involved, right? Some experts are worried that open source AI might be easier to misuse, even weaponize. It's a valid concern. But it's important to remember that closed models aren't immune to those risks either.
It feels like walking a tightrope, right? On one hand, you want to encourage innovation, make AI accessible. But then there's the other hand, being aware of those potential dangers.
Absolutely. And that's what makes DeepSeek such a compelling case study. It's forcing us to really face these questions, think deeply about how AI develops in the future.
And it's not just about potential risks, right? There are the economic implications, too. The CNBC anchors were talking about how DeepSeek's efficiency could impact companies like Microsoft, which has poured so much into OpenAI.
Right. Satya Nadella, Microsoft's CEO, he's put billions into OpenAI, betting big on these closed, computationally intensive models. But what if DeepSeek shows us there's a different way, a more efficient, cost-effective way to develop advanced AI?
It makes you wonder if he's having second thoughts about that investment.
Well, that brings us to the Jevons paradox.
Right, the idea that becoming more efficient doesn't always mean using fewer resources.
Exactly. Nadella himself has tweeted about this. It's a powerful concept. It applies to energy consumption, but also to computational resources. You see, as AI gets more efficient, the demand for processing power could actually go up, even if individual models are using less.
So DeepSeek being so efficient, it might not actually lead to a decrease in the overall demand for computational resources.
That's the paradox. It's a complex dynamic we need to understand as we move forward in this AI race.
It's almost as if DeepSeek is throwing a wrench into our assumptions about how AI should be developed, who should control it, and what the future holds.
It's definitely shaking things up, and that's why these conversations are so important. We need to really dig into the complexities of this new landscape.
I'm glad we're having this deep dive. It's already helping me make sense of it all. There's still so much to uncover, though. The CNBC clip also mentioned how DeepSeek could impact specific industries and companies.
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. If DeepSeek is as disruptive as it seems, the effects will be felt way beyond just AI development.
Exactly. We've got to dive deeper into that. But I think we need to pause here for now,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll pick up this conversation in part 2. So stay tuned, everyone. This DeepSeek journey is just getting started.
Definitely looking forward to continuing this discussion. There's a lot more to explore, and I think it's going to get even more fascinating from here.
I agree. Okay, everyone. We'll be back soon with more on this game-changing AI model. See you then.
Until next time, take care.
That part about DeepSeek's potential impact on companies, that really stuck with me. They brought up Microsoft and its investment in OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me wonder if Satya Nadella is maybe rethinking that $80 billion bet.
Right. I mean, DeepSeek achieving those results,
Mm.
but on less powerful hardware, it really makes you question the cost effectiveness of those massive computationally intensive models.
Exactly. And the CNBC folks mentioned that. Some companies are already experimenting with open source models, like Meta's Llama. They're looking for more affordable alternatives to ChatGPT. If DeepSeek proves to be a strong competitor, it could really disrupt things for companies that have invested heavily in proprietary AI. Are we seeing a shift towards open source AI becoming the dominant model?
Well, we talked about the potential of open source AI to accelerate innovation. It makes powerful tools available to a wider range of developers and researchers. But it's not that simple. There are also concerns about security and control and the potential for misuse.
It's that double-edged sword, right?
Exactly.
Open source can be empowering, but it requires a different approach to managing risk and governance.
Absolutely. And that's why I found their comparison to TikTok so interesting. They asked, if we're worried about TikTok, shouldn't we be even more worried about DeepSeek?
It really highlights the geopolitical anxieties, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the tension between the U.S. and China when it comes to tech and data security.
But it's not a perfect comparison, is it? TikTok is a centralized platform controlled by one company. DeepSeek is open source. The code is out there for anyone to use and adapt.
It's like trying to regulate the internet itself. Once the information is out there, it's hard to contain.
Exactly. So how will governments respond to open source AI? Will they try to regulate it, restrict access, or even develop their own open source models?
It's a tricky situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Governments want to encourage innovation, maintain their technological edge, but they also have these concerns about national security and potential misuse.
It's a balancing act for sure. And DeepSeek has definitely made things more complex.
So we've got this powerful AI. It's shaking up the tech industry, raising geopolitical concerns, and making us rethink open source versus closed models. But what about the average person? How does this affect someone who is not a developer or a tech CEO?
That's the key question, isn't it? These advancements in AI are going to have a huge impact on all of us, whether we realize it or not. We're already seeing AI tools being used everywhere, from content creation to medical diagnosis.
It's exciting and a bit intimidating at the same time.
I get it. It's a time of great change and uncertainty. But I do believe that AI has the potential for good. It can help us solve problems, improve our quality of life, even expand our creative possibilities.
But we need to approach it thoughtfully and ethically. We need open conversations about the benefits and risks, and make sure it's used to benefit everyone.
I completely agree. And I think the open source nature of DeepSeek could actually be a positive thing here.
Oh, how so?
It allows for more transparency and collaboration. Researchers, developers, policymakers, everyone can look at the model, identify potential biases or risks, and work together to address them.
More eyes on the problem, leading to more responsible development.
Exactly. It also empowers individuals and smaller organizations. They don't need the resources of a Microsoft or Google to experiment and build with these AI models.
So DeepSeek could actually level the playing field.
It's a possibility worth exploring. It's what makes this so fascinating. It could disrupt not just the technology, but also the power dynamics around it.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture. DeepSeek isn't just a new AI model. It's a catalyst for change on multiple levels. It's challenging our assumptions, forcing us to confront geopolitical implications, and making us think deeper about the ethical and societal impacts.
You've got it. And remember, we're still in the early stages of this AI revolution. There will be more surprises and challenges ahead.
Speaking of surprises, the CNBC anchors, they brought up Satya Nadella's tweet about the Jevons paradox. And then they asked a really interesting question.
Oh, yeah, about whether Microsoft would recoup its investment.
Well, they went a bit further. They suggested that if AI is becoming a commodity, as Nadella seems to think, that the real question isn't about the money. It's about how much processing power we'll need to support all this AI usage.
That's a crucial point. We're talking about massive data centers, consuming huge amounts of energy, has big implications for climate change and sustainability.
It's like a hidden cost of progress, isn't it?
It is. We get excited about AI's potential, but we often forget about the infrastructure and resources it needs.
It's a cost we need to address if we want AI to benefit everyone without making environmental challenges worse.
Right. It's a reminder that technology, it's not just about bits and bytes. It's tied to the physical world and its limits.
This deep dive has really changed my perspective on AI.
It's been quite a journey. But like I said, we've only just scratched the surface.
My head is spinning with all the possibilities and potential problems.
It's a lot to take in, for sure. But that means we're engaging with the material, asking the right questions.
Before we move on, was there anything else from the CNBC segment that we should touch on?
Well, they mentioned that some CEOs are trying out a mix of AI models, ChatGPT, Claude, and Llama, to see what works best for their businesses.
So they're shopping around, trying different options.
Yeah, exactly. And they said it's getting pretty expensive.
That makes sense, especially if they're paying for access to proprietary models like ChatGPT and Claude. It highlights the appeal of open source AI like DeepSeek.
For sure, if companies can access powerful AI, without those huge fees, it could change everything.
So DeepSeek's not just a competitor. It could be a catalyst for a fundamental shift in how we develop, access, and use AI.
It's a fascinating prospect. We'll have to see how it all plays out.
I'm definitely keeping an eye on DeepSeek and open source AI. It feels like we're witnessing a major transformation.
I agree. And we need to approach it with curiosity and caution to make sure AI is used for the benefit of humanity.
Well said. Okay, I think we've covered a lot here.
We have. It's been a great conversation.
It always is. Thanks for guiding me through this deep dive.
My pleasure. I always enjoy these conversations.
Speaking of which, there's one more thing from the CNBC clip I wanted to discuss. Their analysis of DeepSeek's potential in sectors like healthcare and finance.
Oh, yes. That's where we can really start to see the concrete applications of this technology and how it might impact our lives.
You know, it's crazy how we started just trying to understand DeepSeek. Now we're talking about like the future of AI, its impact on society, even global competition.
I know, right? It's how these deep dives go. They take you on these unexpected journeys.
Totally. We've gone from DeepSeek's code to open source development, geopolitical tensions, ethical considerations. Wow.
It shows you how intertwined everything is. Technology doesn't just exist in a bubble. It affects global power, our everyday lives,
That's what I love about talking with you. You help me see the bigger picture, connect the dots.
It's about getting a more nuanced view. When there's so much information out there, it's easy to get lost, focus on just one little thing.
But when you zoom out, see the connections, the different sides, you really got a deeper understanding of these complicated things.
Exactly. And that understanding is what lets us have better conversations, make informed choices, and shape the future in a more responsible way.
So, big picture time, we've covered a lot. What are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I'd say 3 main things to keep in mind. First, DeepSeek shows us a potential shift in AI. It's challenging those closed models, raising questions about open source, access, control, all that.
It's like a fork in the road for AI, right?
Yeah, a good way to put it. Second point is the geopolitical side. DeepSeek highlights that U.S.-China competition in AI. Governments worldwide are watching this closely.
And third, the impact on us, on society.
Exactly. DeepSeek being so efficient and potentially making AI tools available to more people. It brings up ethical questions. How's this going to affect jobs, privacy, even our sense of humanity? That's a discussion we need to have as a society.
So where do we go from here? What should our listeners be thinking about with AI advancing so fast?
That's the big question. The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's something we're all creating together.
Wow, that's a powerful thought.
By talking about this, asking questions, looking at the big picture, we can make sure AI benefits everyone.
Well said. I think this deep dive's given our listeners a lot to consider.
I hope so. We've just scratched the surface. But sometimes that's all it takes, to spark curiosity, make people want to learn more, and join the conversation about AI's role in our world.
On that note, it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Always a pleasure learning from you.
Same here. I always enjoy exploring these topics with you.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Keep exploring, keep asking those questions. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Take care, everyone.